shadows hide you? I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here, Fred shouts.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, Fred!
Welcome to episode 494 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, April 24th, 2025 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergan, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From North Rend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megesa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Grizzly Bear, May, SSJ5 Goku, and NY Kiwi. And by our patrons of the week, King of Gurai and Craig Burnt. You can go to patreon.com/coinconcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder. Wicked, I gotta know. How did this happen?
Well, you see, I was up really late last night trying to get a Switch 2 and failing. So, so my week's just been full of bad decisions. So I assume you're referring to the fact that I'm playing Aviana on purpose in standard?
That one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I assume this was Hat's fault. It usually is. But somebody posted in the Discord yesterday and tagged me that somebody had built an Aviana priest and gotten to like 48 legend with it. And
yeah. I'm looking at an Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Rank 40 legend, Aviana OTK priest.
And it sure is a deck. I will say, like, I played like maybe 6 games with it. I had probably a 50% win rate. Which is better than, I mean, like, my expectations were subterranean for this deck, right? So like 50% is fine. But so the idea is that you're playing the hunter locations to discount the battle cries so you can get Aviana down as quickly as humanly possible. Because you're running the priestess imbue is the only imbue that you're running just basically as a defensive tool that happens to give you a little bit of late game. But and you have like a couple of other battle cries. I mean, you have to run Vulcan in order to get the hunter location, but not too many other battle cries. So you're basically just like running the hunter locations to discount Aviana. So you can get her down to like 6 or 7, ideally, or maybe a little bit later if you're like clearing alongside it. But the idea is that you're getting to that point. You're playing Ancients of Yore for both draw and for, defense. You've got a lot of healing in the deck. You're running double greater healing potion. You're running the 3-cost spell that gets lifesteal if you've played other spells. You've got, some whatever other clears, repackage and double Shatterword Ruin for paladins, though I didn't find it was particularly effective against paladin. It's funny because in general there are a lot of 4 attack minions in this meta, and Ruin destroys everything 5 or greater. So there's a lot of things that Ruin doesn't clear, and then you die. So that's bad. But so the general idea is what you're trying to do is you're trying to play Aviana, just stick Aviana on a turn, right? And then you wait for it to finish. You have enough sustain to generally allow that to happen. Then you Tyrande and you play Champions of Azeroth looking for Antonidas, which if you Champions of Azeroth, you're doubling up, or if you Tyrande first, you're doubling up Champions of Azeroth. So there's only like a handful of minions in the pool, and you've got it. I think someone did the math. It's like a 40% chance to hit an Antonidas on Champions of Azeroth. You probably have drawn both of them if you whiff, and like they'll all cost 0 anyway at that point. So you just play out whatever you need to and then try again. But then you just do that. All your spells cost 1, so you just start flinging fireballs at your opponent, and then they die. And if you're really blessed, you'll also get a Velen along with the Antonidas, and you need fewer fireballs in order to do that. Or you have enough to do it through like 60 or 70 or 80 life. And that works sometimes. I found it didn't really work against the Paladin because I felt like I needed to clear everything in order to not just die before I got to that point. And I'm not really sure, like, the answer to, well, what if that doesn't work, is just kill them with Marin value, which I appreciate as a theory. But I did not really get to see that happen in practice, but it did do the thing more or less consistently. Like the only game that I lost to a non-paladin was because I had too many cards in hand and then burned either the Aviana or the Tyrande and just scooped. This
is one of those decks where the combo is so convoluted that I wonder how often I would win with just like doubling the summon legendary from Marin.
Yeah.
Instead.
Or just like getting Velen to do things. I don't know what else Velen would do for you, but like I don't even know, because I know Varian is in Champions of Azeroth, but because I've gotten a bunch of him.
Tyrion, Bran.
Oh yeah,
Marin.
Bran. Yeah, Bran was there. Yeah.
Marin, it seems like a thing.
Yeah.
If you whiff on the Antonidas, I think I could look up the math. I did the math at some point on when you double it, and if you cast 2 doubled.
It's actually better than that, because there's only the 5. It's Bran, Antonidas, Velen, Tyrion, and Varian. And you can only, so you have a 40% chance for each Champions of Azeroth, so it's probably better than that. But and it sometimes has taken me casting both of them to find it, which is frustrating. But it happens often enough that it's fairly reliable.
It says a single champion's 40%, a doubled champion's like with Tyrande, or you play both of them without Tyrande, is 64% chance.
Yeah.
If you double champions, you have an 87% chance of hitting Antonidas. But yeah, you can potentially do stuff with Bran or with Velen otherwise.
Yeah. There's also double Puppet Theater.
Yeah. There is.
Which...
It's a choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like it was particularly useful. I mean, I'm sure that there's some matchups where it is. I think that really the matchups where it's going to be very useful are going to be against Starship decks.
Yeah.
Where you just, okay, fine, you just made a giant Starship. I'm going to make my own, and it's not going to be big, but it's going to have all the death rattles in it. And...
Right.
You know.
Or like you could do it on Ancient of Yore to cycle to your combo faster.
You could do it on Ashamane.
You sure can, and I think we should move on.
Yeah. So anyway, I played that because I spent the $35 on the fancy Tyrande, and damn it if I was going to use it. So I did, and I did say that I needed to be able to use it, and then the monkey paw curled, and I got this deck thrown in my lap. So it feels like it's 1 or 2 removal tools away from being not embarrassing.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You know, but I'm not climbing with it. I'm enjoying myself, but I'm not climbing with it. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I may give it a try, which is probably questionable.
You could probably make it better, or make it better for, normal ranks.
I don't know how. Again, it's like I'm just not sure the tools are there. I'm surprised it's running 1 repackage, but yeah, it's just like Nightshade Tea. I think we've realized is good, but the problem is that you're still taking damage. So it ends up being like much better for kind of more aggressive decks, because they're just sort of keeping their stuff alive, and okay with taking the damage if they're trying to be aggressive. Whereas for the control deck, it's like, well, you've killed the stuff, and maybe it gains you life over the long run, but you're still taking damage, and
Well, I mean,
Stuff.
the upside of it is that it is ticking up Wish of the New Moon to give it lifesteal if you have both of them in hand.
True, in this case, yeah.
Yeah. So
don't
like
have a lot of
the
experience with
dream
that
is
card.
that you have Nightshade Tea, you have Wish of the New Moon in hand, you play all 3 charges of the Nightshade Tea, and then you're playing Wish of the New Moon to get all that life back. That's the dream. How often does that happen? Not often enough. And Wish of the New Moon does not like. If we're gonna buff at some point, I'd love to see them buff that to like 2 spells rather than 3 to turn on the lifesteal. Because 3, if you don't have exactly Nightshade Tea, is so much to be able to do, especially when you top deck it, it feels just abysmal. That it's like 3 damage to a minion, no lifesteal, bleh, right? Like it's so that's something that I feel like could probably be a little bit better. But yeah, it's also that 2 damage does not go as far as it used to. So you're usually having to use 2 Nightshade Teas to clear like anything of consequence right now. And that also kind of sucks.
Yeah, there's a lot of 3 health things, which is why like Holy Nova's pretty awful. Like Hot Coals works because you do it with tea.
But you only have tea. So
Right,
it's like
exactly.
if you don't have tea with it, then it's just Holy Nova but bad.
Yeah.
And you don't have the other things that you would have in a more aggressive priest. Like you don't have acupuncture or whatever that could also turn it on.
Or just the weapon or brain
Or
masseuse.
weapons. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
you can't run a weapon into anything to bring your health total down. So like if you don't have exactly Nightshade Tea to activate it, then it doesn't do very much and it's not really worth running. But it's also like, what else are you doing with your life if you're not running that? Because there's not really any other like damage AoEs that you could run that are better than that.
I mean, I'm not saying like don't run it. I'm saying like the fact that like that's all you've got, and if you don't have it, a lot of times you just die to the early pressure.
I mean, it's level 1 you're with, but it's the one you're with is hard to love right now. So
yeah, like this deck would take Excavated Evil.
Oh yeah. Oh, I would love Excavate. Give me Excavated Evil. That'd be great. Please. That would be fine.
Which is a dated clear.
Yeah, sure. Like, let's do that. I'd be fine with that.
I guess Chaos Nova.
Yeah. It's too expensive. There's those taunts that they added back in, like the Light Elemental, but that's too expensive, I think. Like, it forces them to trade through usually,
turn 5 and turn 6 are so late at this point. Like you're already like Paladin already has like an 8/8 and 3 5/5s by turn 6, and like 1 taunt doesn't do anything. That's kind of the problem.
Anyway, how about you, Melissa?
Well, all right. So until Monday, I had been managing somehow to keep myself between like 400. I dipped a little bit below that at some point in the month to like 900. And I was very pleased with myself because usually I drop like a stone after a rotation. And I've been trying out lots of stuff and it's mostly working. Not as adventurous as I could be, but definitely trying out lots of things. And then we were like, what are we going to talk about this week? Because we, spoiler alert, don't actually have many set cards revealed to talk about. And there really was one obvious thing to talk about, which is Rogue. Now, I had already tried to play a little bit of Rogue and realized that I haven't played a lot of, even though I have the golden hero power for Rogue, it's like with weird rogues. It's with, or just completely overpowered rogues. Like back in Alterac, there was that rogue that had like scabs and also the make your hero have stealth thing, and then it had poison weapons, and it was just absolutely absurd, but it happened over Christmas, so it took a while to nerf it. That was not hard to play.
I think even I got into like top 500 with that rogue. And
It's a dark time.
It was a very dark time. Yeah.
Yeah, I was not upset when they nerfed it, even though I had been riding that up because it needed to be nerfed. It was like the 3 most annoying qualities of Rogue all in one deck, except also easy to pilot, or at least easier to pilot. So, but I was like, all right, it would be good for my development as a Hearthstone player to actually know how to play roguey rogues. So I gave Pirate Rogue and Ashamane Pirate Rogue and just regular Ashamane Rogue. All a try. And I have stemmed the bleeding now, more or less. But I dropped 2,000 ranks pretty fast. So now this is like objectively a good place to be still. I don't know whether I'm going to get 11x or not, but that's okay. But it was a little bit like I was feeling the groove and then not so much. So listeners, that is how much I care about you. I persisted playing Rogue so I could talk about it. Now, probably I should have done a little bit more like stopping watching replays and then going back into it instead of like tilt playing, but do as I say, not as I do on that. I did eventually sort of stop and get a little bit more advice and then come back, and then I did better today. Also just was less tilted on it. Part of the problem was that I kept running into mages, which I had not been seeing, although some people who were still playing in top 1K told me they were seeing mages also. Mostly Protoss mage, some spell mage. On the stats, they're like tier 3 spell mage kind of flirting with tier 4, but they do have good matchups against Rogue because they gain a ton of armor, they have a ton of stall. Their stuff is not that useful for you with Ashamane, especially with the Protoss mage. It's like less useful than you would want it to be. And the Protoss mage does just kill you at a certain point. So you can't just like chill forever. So it's not an easy matchup. And I was like, why does this keep happening to me? How come I keep running into them? But I was able to get a little bit more of a groove with it, I think. And it is good to learn a different style of class. It took a lot of rejiggering some of my general habits. Like, you can't just throw all your tools out instantly necessarily. Like, you do have to have pressure, but you also have to keep things for combo activations. You also have to make sure that you don't run yourself out of draw. I was like, how am I running myself out of draw as a rogue? Rogue opponents always have full hands. And then I kind of started to figure it out. And I was like, oh, just because I'm not good at playing rogue, but now I have a full hand. And then you have the opposite problem where your hand is too full for Shaladricel, so you have to work back the other direction. Anyway, we're going to talk more about rogue, and luckily also Edel has played some rogue as well, which she can tell us about. So it won't just be me.
and certainly I'm going to be no help. So, you know.
At first, I hadn't realized that Edel was playing rogue. So I messaged yesterday, like, we have a problem, which is that I've been losing with rogue. I had like a 33% win rate with it or something until I did a lot better today. And Edel was like, no, don't worry. I've been playing Pirate Rogue. We're all set. So I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I don't have like a ton of stats because I was doing a lot of playing from my iPad, but I know that the times when I was playing rogue, I was climbing. The times when I was not playing rogue, I was not climbing. So now I was starting kind of on the other side of things from you, Magesa. I was in the 3 to 4K range, and so it was like at various points climbing back to 2. But I started with Maxibon's Pirate Rogue, which is probably sort of the generic thing. It's funny, there's like more pirate synergistic cards around. They're not in there. It's not really a pirate rogue, it's just a Crystal Cove bargain bin rogue. Like, that's that's what it is. It's a Crystal Cove deck. Yeah, I was having the oh god, too many cards problem because that Maxibon list has Toy Boat in addition to Dubious Purchase and the raiding parties. So lots and lots of card draw. To the point I actually ended up saying this does not need Toy Boat. It can be something else. But we'll get into more of that. Point is, I'm playing some rogue. I would not consider myself a rogue expert, but it has been what I've been climbing with, and so I've got some decent vibes on how to how to play it. I was curious when just something you said earlier. I was like, well, I wonder where Rogue actually stands in terms of my class wins. It is 5th.
Okay.
Because Mage is at 5,200 something, followed by Warrior at 3,300 something, then Paladin at 3,100 something, and then Shaman 2,960, Rogue 2,785. So that's my top half. Death Knight recently surpassed Demon Hunter. Well, maybe not that recently, but I just realized Death Knight surpassed Demon Hunter. It broke the 1K mark at 1,042. Demon Hunter sitting at 997, which makes me think I should probably just get those last 3 out of the way.
Yeah, probably.
I am now looking. Death Knight is by far my least played class. By far. But according to HS Replay's stats thing, it is my second highest win rate class. And my first highest win rate is Shaman. But in terms of what I've actually played, 40% of games I have ever played in Hearthstone were Priest, which is even more than... It's fewer total games than Wicked has played of Priest, but a greater percentage.
Yeah, barring, the newer classes, Priest is my second to last, which you can guess what my least played class is. It is Druid.
Druid. Yeah, I was about to say it is Druid.
Rogue is my least played class of the original 9. I mean, I have fewer games with Demon Hunter and Death Knight.
Right. Demon Hunter and Death Knight, it's hard to evaluate because,
And Rogue is also my worst win rate, and it's not close. I mean, actually, my win rate with Priest is not much better, but that's because I played a lot of crappy Priest decks. So, I mean, it's my most... I've got 13,500 Priest games, it looks like. Because I've got 6,600 wins and more losses than that. But Death Knight's actually my highest win rate class, interestingly, even though it's I only have
Death Knight control has been more viable than Priest control.
And I mean, Death Knight has been control Priest for a while, so I mean that kind of does track. But yeah,
for me, I think it's 2 things that my Priest is a little bit lower. One is that if I'm gonna play a Priest deck, it doesn't have to be a good deck for me to play it. But if I'm gonna play a Death Knight deck, it has to be a good deck, or I'm not gonna bother. And also, the Priest decks I've played the most with recently, well, part of it is that I played a lot of Priest back in before my baby Magesa days when I was playing it Platinum and Gold. Had all kinds of Priest decks. But the other part was when I climb a lot, then I'm like, I'm going to go with my comfort deck. I'm going to play Priest, and I'm going to win less up there because of a ceiling effect. When you're at a sort of rank peak from yourself, you can't expect to have the same win rate.
Yeah.
As when you're climbing. So,
yeah.
Whereas Death Knight, I'm not going to play if I'm anxious about it or if the deck is not really good. Also, my total number of wins in Death Knight, 158.
Whew.
Yeah. What's interesting is my second highest win rate class, Paladin.
It's the other holy class.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's just I have holy spells so I can make it work. I don't know. But it's probably from when I played in Wild. I had a couple of runs in Wild where Paladin was just giga broken and I just abused the hell out of it. But
I was going to say it's probably that when you can't play Priest is sometimes when Paladin is broken, and so you can't play Paladin. Did you all know we in fact did not get a mini set announcement, and that is why we are.
Yeah. That's why we're not rushing through Life and Ladder. Yeah. So, but I guess we probably should talk some about news. Let's talk about some news, and then we'll talk about some Rogue, I guess.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so we did get some patch notes from patch 32.2, which is coming out on Tuesday. We thought we were getting a mini set announcement. And which is technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. But we didn't actually find out anything that's in the mini set, just that it exists. So we have patch notes. Battleground Season 10 is going to be live. We talked about it a little bit last week. Go back and listen to that if you are interested. There are some hero updates. There's some minion pool changes. There's a major minion pool refresh. Again, they're updating the minion frames to visually show what minion type the minions are on the board, which again, an occasional casual Battlegrounds enjoyer, as myself, will appreciate quite a bit, because I can never remember what's an elemental, and the card art often is not helpful. So you can look through that. There is a preview event tomorrow, April 25th, as we're recording this. If you're listening to the podcast, you can go catch the VODs. But if you are listening to this live, that's going to be 9 a.m. Pacific to 3 p.m. Pacific for Americas and EMEA players on April 20th. Drops will be enabled category wide on Twitch. You can watch for 2 hours to get 4 Battlegrounds tokens. You'll get 1 per hour, or 1 hour per drop, 2 total hours. So I guess you get 2 tokens per drop, because that's how math works. Okay. We did it.
Yes.
Anyway, so we have Embers of the World Tree mini set coming on May 13th. That is all we know. So we will find out what the cards are closer to when it goes live, but it will be coming out. It sounds like it's going to be in this patch somehow, but just locked away. So hopefully that doesn't get leaked, but we will see what happens. There is going to be an in-game event, Embers of the World Tree, where you sift through the ashes in the wake of the mini set to keep your dreams alive. So that's going to be May 13th to June 3rd. You will get 6 Into the Emerald Dream packs, 1 year of the Pegasus pack, 2 random Into the Emerald Dream epics, and the Ardenweald Huln Hunter hero skin for completing the events. There will also be a Heroic Tavern Brawl on the week of May 14th to 21st, which will coincide with the mini set, interestingly. So normally those are a gold sync ahead of the mini set. This is the first time I can remember that this is going to be timed alongside the release of the mini set. So that's going to be a source for a lot of deck innovation, most likely. But that's going to be May 14th to May 21st. The reward's the same. It's going to go 12 wins or 3 losses. As usual, the advice that we give has not changed. If you are playing this for the rewards, you probably shouldn't. There are rare exceptions. We were having that discussion in the Discord today. There is exactly one person, and they know who they are, who is free to play and probably a good enough brewer that they can probably benefit from the rewards. Most people, if you are playing well enough, or you are good enough of a player, you probably also have all the cards and you don't need these rewards. If you are playing thinking that you're going to be able to get the rewards where you're going to break even on this, you probably don't have the gold to spare it. So it's 1,000 gold, so you probably need to get 7 wins is conservative, I think, or maybe 6. 6 wins is like 7 packs, 250 dust, and 250 gold. So that's probably around 1,000 gold's worth of value. And it's probably not going to feel great anyway. But if you're getting to 12 wins to get like the 50 packs and then the 3 golden legendaries, like you probably don't need those if you're playing it. If you're planning to get that much and you think you're going to be able to do that well. So don't look at this as a money-making adventure. Think of this as going to Vegas and setting a budget for money that you expect to lose, and do it for the experience if you're going to do it.
Or, yeah, I was going to say, or if you just like sort of more tournament style play.
Yep. I've been saving my gold for this and for the mini set. So if you are hearing this and you haven't been saving your gold, you still have a little bit of time before the mini set drops, and you at least want to have enough gold for the mini set, ideally, because that's just a really good deal.
Yeah, I may, for like the first time ever, just do the golden mini set with gold rather than spend all the gold on Heroic
Yeah.
Tavern Brawl and open packs for the mini set.
Yeah, I might do that too. I've got a lot more gold than usual, so that might be something that I consider doing also, just because I've got so much dust from accumulated that I don't really need to open as many packs. But anyhow, I'll get out of my Scrooge McDuck gold vault swimming pool and go back to the news. So when patch 32.2 launches, all ongoing arena runs will end, and there will be one last arena season under the current system. So we heard, again, as we talked about last week, the arena refresh will be coming in patch 32.4, which is a month from when this releases. So, and that's going to be when the next expansion is going to be released, because remember, this is a shortened patch schedule. Normally these are 4-month long cycles. This month is 3 months long in order to change up the schedule. So in 32.4, we're going to get the new arena update, and we're going to get the announcement in the pre-order of the new expansion. So this month it'll be Into the Emerald Dream, including the Embers of the World Tree mini set, even before it releases. And the Fleeing Treant Arena only card. Showdown in the Badlands, Voyage to the Sunken City, Forged in the Barrens, Scholomance Academy, and the core set. That's going to be what's available in arena. And with patch 32.2, the new and returning player loaner decks will update to include cards from the Into the Emerald Dream expansion, the main set, not the mini set. The loaner decks will be available for this expansion cycle will be Death Knight, Druid, Mage, Paladin, Shaman, and Warlock. I do not believe that we have seen those yet, but you can probably guess what those are going to be because when they do those are kind of based on the outgoing meta. So you can kind of guess what those are going to look like when they get released.
Do you think it'll be like Blood Decay or Hand Buff?
It could be Hand Buff. It could be Starship DK. It's probably going to be some sort of like a Protoss or Imbue Mage, right? I mean, Paladin's probably going to be a Shanty Paladin, presumably.
Shaman, I have no idea. Yeah.
Shaman, I can't imagine they're going to do like Murmur Shaman, but maybe. I don't know. I mean, Wheel Warlock would also be. I guess it's moving away from Wheel and more to Starship, and maybe that's okay. That seems like a lot of Starship stuff to put into the loaner decks, but maybe it's fine. I don't know. I mean, Druid's almost certainly Imbue Druid. Like that's almost certainly what that's going to be. But again, we don't know. We're just guessing. But okay. So then we have some fairly significant bug fixes, rules updates, and game improvements. So one major one is that the Dark Gift keyword is being adjusted so that Dark Gifts with keywords can't be applied to minions that already have one of those keywords.
Oh, I like that.
Previously, Dark Gifts were only blocked if fully redundant. So what this means is that if you have a minion in your hand with charge, you will not be offered a Dark Gift that gives it charge.
Or say it has elusive. So there's like the like +2/+2 and elusive Dark Gift. If you had a minion that was elusive previously, it could still have been given that Dark Gift because it still gets a +2/+2. But it's kind of lame because the elusive isn't new. So now if there's a minion that's naturally elusive, it won't be given the Dark Gift that gives it elusive and +2/+2 because that would be partially redundant. It'll be
I wonder the way they'll do this. Like, will it just re-roll which minion is given that gift, or will it like shuffle the minions in the 3 that you're going to be shown to, so that like
I don't even think it's that much. I think it's just like these are the minions, and then this is the available pool of things to choose from. Pick one, I think is what it is.
Yeah, I assume it picks the minions first, and then it picks Dark Gifts for the minions.
So it would shuffle then, right? That it's like, okay, these are the minions. Oh, that keyword is the same. Well, it has to get one of these other gifts then.
Right, yeah. Let's just the bag that it's going to pull out of is going to be smaller, right? So like this is really going to affect Divine Shield Wind Fury.
Yes.
The most, because
that's the biggest one.
That's the biggest one. So like if you're a poor soul that's playing Wallow Warlock, you want to be aware of that and make sure that you want to get any minions that have Divine Shield or Wind Fury out of your hand before you play anything that generates a Dark Gift, because you need Divine Shield to Wind Fury at some point. And Charge is the other one, obviously, but there aren't that many minions with Charge on them. But
it doesn't matter what's in your hand. It just matters.
Oh yeah, no, not in your hand. That's true. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just you're going to get offered Divine Shield and Wind Fury less. Is basically what's going to happen. I don't know how much less. it's going to depend on the individual pools for those dark gifts. Like, I don't know how many legendary minions have Divine Shield and Wind Fury on them. Certainly, if you're building that, you want to remove anything with Divine Shield or Wind Fury if you had it for Xavius purposes from your deck.
I mean, it's going to affect just Creature of Madness the most, right?
Yeah.
Because that's any 3-drop, right?
Yeah. And I don't know what the odds are for those having Divine Shield or Wind Fury, but I'm sure Wind Fury, not so much. Divine Shield seems like something that would be, but it only cares if it has any of them. Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think it's mostly a positive change because it means that you don't get redundant stuff on your minions.
Oh, yeah.
It is generally a positive change, but there are some things that are going to, some hidden odds that are going to affect things that you're not going to notice if you're not looking for them. And Wallow Warlock is going to be the one. I mean, again, Wallow Warlock's not really a deck, but if you're playing that in some sort of like a Tavern Brawl or something like that, you want to be aware of it.
At least we had the pre-release Brawl for Wallow.
Yeah. So, and we're not done with Wallow, by the way. So normal game rules are, this is always good when we have to start with normal game rules are as the beginning of the sentence. That's all we know we're in trouble. Normal game rules are that a card moving backwards in a zone, such as from the board to hand or hand to deck, loses its enchantments.
Yep.
Wallow the Wretched now has a specific exception to this rule. If Wallow the Wretched is moved from your hand to the top of your decks due to the Sweet Dreams Dark Gift, which is the one that gives it +4/+5 and puts it on top of your deck, Wallow will now retain all its Dark Gift enchantments, but not other enchantments and not any enchantments if it is moved backwards in a zone due to anything other than its own effect. So basically, Wallow will not brick if it's in your hand and you pick the put on top of your deck Dark Gift, but it will lose it if you move it out of your hand for any other reason.
As someone who did that one time and was like, oh.
Yeah.
I think it's a good change. I would understand arguments either way, right? It's just like, this is just consistent with how game rules work. But it's one of those quality of life things where it's like, yeah, everyone can have that time where they do it by accident and then they don't do it again.
Yeah.
Or they could just make it work so that people don't screw up.
And also, not everybody is as tuned in as we are, and we're still making that mistake even though we know what the normal rule is. If you don't know what the normal rule is, then you'd be pretty confused and unhappy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And we're not done, by the way, because now we have to talk about evolve rules again.
Why?
So, adjusted the evolve rules. The full rule is now, when evolving, if a minion costs 10 or less, it is capped at 10. When evolving, if a minion costs more than 10, it evolves into a random minion of its same cost, which could just be the same minion. When devolving, if a result is not available, then the minion will continue devolving until a result is found. For instance, devolving a 15 cost minion would result in a 12 cost if there was a 12 cost minion in the pool, but no 13 or 14 cost minion. So
okay, so Ceaseless goes to Mountain Giant.
Yeah, but I mean, instead of Ceaseless going to just another Ceaseless, which I think is what it did before.
Uh-huh.
But if you try to evolve Ceaseless, it'll just be another Ceaseless.
Right. No, it's going to be another 10 drop.
No, that's what they just said. If a minion costs more than 10, it evolves into a random minion of its same cost, which could just be the same minion.
So it could evolve into a fresh copy.
Fresh copy of itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll heal itself, basically.
Evolve is just so convoluted. Just whatever. Something happens when you evolve stuff.
There's no card game. It doesn't matter what evolve does in that card game. There's no card game where the evolve mechanic is not overly complicated and confusing.
Yeah.
So other changes, Starship Peace when launched effects will now always trigger in a random order. I think they were inconsistently random before. Now they will be fully random. So, that mainly affects like the Terran stuff where you're getting the bonus effects before doing 2 damage to all enemies, and you could get poisoned sometimes. Right. So now that's going to be completely random. That's generally when it matters. But, there are other times that it can matter. So This next one's in bold, by the way. So all those ones that I just talked about, those weren't confusing enough or significant enough to bold them. This one is. So effects that have the same resolution trigger will now always resolve in timestamp order. This means Briarspawn Drake's effect will now always trigger its own effect before the return to deck effect given to it by Cliff Dive.
So it does now work the way that you wanted it to. And this is not just for that particular interaction. So, any sort of timestamp, we were having all kinds of weird timestamp order bugs, end of turn effect order things. But now just it is, I assume that this happens because like the Briarspawn Drake comes in with its own effect and then it gets the return to Drake effect given to it by Cliff Dive. Anyway, it works the way that you as the person playing Cliff Dive want it to.
Yeah, it works in a way that makes sense to a human. So, that's most important. So yeah, you could consider putting Briarspawn Drakes into your Cliff Dive Demon Hunters now. I don't know if that's something that you want to do, but it's something that you can do and it'll do what you expect it to do. Also bolded, made floppy Hydra less floppy, fixed a bug where it kept enchantments other than its own effect. So I'm presuming that this means that you were given a floppy Hydra off of the card that gets a dark gift and on a 3-drop. That seems like the most likely time that this would happen. And if you're say giving that +4/+5 and on top of your deck or charge would be hilarious actually, because then you just shuffle a bigger copy into it every time that happens to have charge. And then those guys just get to go face. So that's not going to happen anymore. So do be aware of that if you were abusing Hydras. Also, don't abuse Hydras. They're adorable and they don't serve it. So I'm looking to see what other, there's a lot of bugs.
Fixed an issue where the Druid Imbue counter would get cut off on some mobile devices. We had mentioned that. That
was annoying. So I'm glad that they fixed that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, fix the bug where cosplay contestant that turned into Ancient of Yore would give the opponent its dormant effects. That's kind of hilarious, but I don't,
Fixed a bug where Amphibian Spirit couldn't be copied by effects like Death Growl.
I don't call that. That's not a bug. That's a feature, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah. So
some of these, it's like, how did they find this out? Fixed a bug where Narain Soothfancy's fortunes would permanently transform into cards that transform in hand each turn. So if you were playing Chameleos, I guess, in Wild with Narain Soothfancy, you'd just get a Chameleos forever now. But not anymore.
Sure. The rest of them are pretty cringe.
Yeah, they're pretty. I mean, they also did fix a very important bug where the Druid Imbue Plant Golem arts were in the wrong order. So I'm glad that they fixed that because that would have been very impactful. But,
yeah. Or rather, these things will be fixed when this goes live. Depending on when you're listening to this, that may or may not quite have happened yet. This will be live on April 29th.
Yes.
Which is Tuesday.
Yes. So there's also a new event that I am realizing right now that I didn't pull an image of. So I'm going to take 3 seconds. Apologies, chat. I'm going to go get that real fast. So talk amongst yourselves for a minute. So here we go. Okay. All right. So we have the Defend Amir Drasil in-game event that just started on Tuesday. This is a weird one because it's really a Battlegrounds focused event, but the rewards are mostly tavern passes, packs, and then signature cards for constructed.
Yeah, there's 3 tokens for Battlegrounds, but that is all.
There's no Battlegrounds portraits. There's no strikes. There's just constructed cards. So it's weird. For the first 3 stages, you get a tavern ticket, which you can use in Arena or for the next pre-release brawl. A Into the Emerald Dream pack and a Battlegrounds reroll token. So there's 3 sets of those. And then the final one is 3 signature cards for constructed. But the quests are incentivizing you to play Battlegrounds. Like the first quest is spend 4 mana or battle 400 mana or Battlegrounds gold, but dragons count twice, presumably. I mean, I guess you could play Zarimi Priest and maybe count it. I don't know.
I mean,
But-
depending on how many games you play,
Yeah.
it's If you are playing fewer games, you want to get it through faster. You can, and you don't want to play Battlegrounds, you can play Zarimi Priest. Otherwise, you will get there if you play more games. But then the next one is play 20 games of Arena or Battlegrounds. So that one you really have to kind of go out of your way if you don't normally play Arena or Battlegrounds. And the third one is summon 200 minions in Arena or Battlegrounds. Taunt and Divine Shield minions count 2 times.
So, I don't know, like, if you're only a constructed player and you care about these rewards, I mean, like, the signatures are nice. Like, maybe
I
you
may
do.
or may not finish it.
But yeah, it's like you're going to have to commit to playing Battlegrounds, which, depending on how you feel about this meta, maybe you're going to. I don't know. Or you're going to play Arena, which is also... The Arena piece, I think, would be a lot more interesting if the new Arena mode was in place. And I think that they probably designed this quest line when they thought that Arena was going to be live with 32.2. And so it kind of hits a little different when you're playing like old Arena's last hurrah instead of like the new Arena mode that was supposed to be in this patch.
Yeah, it will have the new mini set cards, but that's not necessarily a ton of cards.
Yeah.
Although Wicked Imbue Priest is apparently good in Arena, so
Yay.
Yeah, random stuff that costs less. I could see that being better in Arena.
Yeah. I mean, I can see it. It makes sense. It's got to be a better hero power than what they're working with to start with in Arena. So yeah, okay. I can buy it. So anyway, so that quest is there. So, you may be relying on the dailies, or you may want to check out the new Battleground season in order to make some headway on that if you care about the signatures at the end, or you could just ignore it if you want. I'm sure that the signatures will probably be available for purchase in the shop after the event ends. They usually are. Also, we got a rare update to the physical gear store with Hearthstone merch, that is the definition of newsworthy. This is definitely dog bites man, because we do not often get new Hearthstone merch in the shop. So we have a Hearthstone established 2014 like college logo style shirt. We've got a shirt with a collection of 7 food card backs. So you've got like cupcake, lemonade, pizza, ramen, pie. There's a couple others.
Grilled cheese, and I can't really quite see it. It's like a bento box, maybe.
Yeah. So if you like the food card backs, you can get that. There's also the a metal style shirt that's got Hearthstone in a very metal font with Alarashi, which would not have been on my bingo card for an iconic legendary minion that would make it onto a t-shirt, but here we are. But I guess he is very metal, so I mean, ETC, it's like right there. I know it's not the right expansion, but like if we're gonna be metal, like ETC is like, he's the metal guy. Like, let's do that. But anyway, so that's there. So those are 3 new shirts. There's also there's more too. There's an into the Emerald Dream logo with the card back on the back, and there's also 2 shirts with the Shanshui, Naralex, and Tyrande. So if you really like the Tyrande art and you want to spend more money on Tyrande, you could wear Tyrande on your chest, which is, I'm not being facetious. I'm saying that is a legitimate option, and I support you in that endeavor.
honestly might be a better choice than getting the signature.
It is actually like the same price once you get it shipped to you, and you don't have to worry about whether it's playable to wear it. So
yeah, and it'll be usable even after Tyrande rotates out of standard. Yep. So, that I'm not going to tell you how to use your money. This is not a financial advice podcast, but there's also a distressed Hearthstone logo t-shirt, and you can also get the varsity shirt in a pullover sweatshirt. So those are like, The fact that we're talking about like 8 different products at once is like more than I think they've announced in like the past 2 years. Like outside of like a BlizzCon, I don't think I've seen this big of a Hearthstone update to the Gear Store in a while. So it is notable.
It's true.
So and I mean, I'm not gonna tell you that you should or shouldn't spend money, but also they probably respond to how well these things sell. If you want to see more of this, then it would be good to jump. I actually need to order the varsity one. I that reminds me, I forgot about it, but I need to go do that. So that is news, ending with a little bit of a different shop update than usual. And now, with no further ado, let's talk about Rogue.
All right, so as promised, we have some Rogue to talk about. We were going to also try to talk about Protest Rogue, but then we changed our minds because neither Edel nor I played it, and Wicked played like 3 games before the show and said, I'm 2-1 and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I am not the world's foremost expert on Rogue to begin with. We've firmly established this. And I will say that I played a couple games before the podcast. I went 2-1. I could not tell you how I did it. There was one game that Edel was spectating me that I was playing against that Aviana priest, and I'd played the Archon into a board that had 2 puppet theaters on it, and I was at like 22 life or something like that. And we were both convinced that I was going to die, and then they just conceded. And I don't think that was correct, because they had 16 damage just with 2 mana, and before they did anything else, but they just apparently had nothing else after that. So yeah, it's what's weird is that like these are all kind of different tempo-y decks, but the Protoss one feels like it's trying to do the same things as the other 2, but it's also trying to do like half of a Protoss shell, and it feels like 3 decks in a trench coat, where it's trying to do a lot of things, but it doesn't seem to be doing any of them particularly well.
To be clear, they're all 3 decks in a trench coat. That's the state of Rogue is such that you probably should run Harbinger. The one we have here, like, so there's a few different lists in the HS Guru link. The Maxibon pirate list that I played a bunch. Zacho made a point on the podcast that like Pirate Rogue probably could just also run Harbinger and Web. Like, you could take out the toy boats, take out the backstab, and like one other card. I did the 2/4 pirate that buffs your pirates when they attack. It's not really a full pirate deck, right? It's mostly just about the location and the weapon and the copying pirate. So yeah, you could do that and just add in Harbingers and Web of Deception. And I realized upon doing that it was, at that point, almost the Ashamane Rogue.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and to that point, VS just, in the rogue list that they released today, they didn't put like a regular pirate rogue at all. They just put Ashamane Pirate Rogue. Because it is just Ashamane Rogue, except for instead of like Creature of Madness and like Xavius, so you have Crystal Cove and Water Cannon, and I mean, you're running Bargain Bin Buccaneer in both of them, but like you're just running a few more pirates, but you're still doing Twisted Web Weaver, you're still doing like Lucky Comet, Web of Deception, you're still doing Shaladrosel Ashamane and Twin Perfect Ziliax, because that's another way that you can corrupt your Shaladrosel.
Yep.
While stabilizing if things have gone poorly in its late game. So it's just a slightly different shell of the same deck as the Ashamane Rogue, where the Ashamane Rogue instead is running Creature of Madness and Mixologist and Xavius.
Yeah, basically Pirate Rogue aims to be a bit like a bit different in its versatility, right? You don't have the Ziliax. It has Marin, right? And you have double of the raiding parties. You can make sure you get your weapon, but still very centered on the location for 5/5s. And you have Wind Fury potential on a single pirate because of
Sailboat Captain.
Sailboat Captain, right? Exactly. And so you can do crazy lethals where you play Shaladrasil, you can give something +5/+5 that is a pirate, and you give it Wind Fury. But a lot of the time, it's just like, oh, I stuck a 5/5. That's gonna hit them.
Yeah.
And if you have the Hosen, then it gets +1/+1, and then another +1/+1 from the second attack. So the Pirate Rogue is, I think, if you prefer to sort of like have a more concrete game plan, you can do that one and go like, okay, now is go time. We stuck a big 5/5, hit them with the Wind Fury and try and get them low, burn them out. And Marin is familiar, right? He does Marin things. That's sort of your, okay, this went longer than intended sort of game plan. Often, I think, if it comes to Marin, you just want to pick the tempo one, which is the crown, and sometimes not play wand, because then you'll go to fatigue faster.
And you may not even have hand space in a deck like this too. Like hand space, it depends on the build. Again, I don't know about this list. I know the Protoss Rogue just seemed to always have just like too many cards in hand, and like trying to draw 3 is difficult at best. I mean, the other problem that I have with the problem that with the Protoss build now is that it's just giving up the tempo for more endgame, and the endgame just doesn't seem as good as just like, hey, what if I just hit them faster? Which is not a sentence that I recognize comes out of my mouth very often. But like in this case, it seems like you're kind of sacrificing the early game that can make the late game easier for you in favor of like running Photon Cannon and Artanis, and then having to run like for the Templars, and like that can get you there, but it's also like you're not getting those kinds of early plays by, you don't have like Space Rock Collector, you don't have the Bargain Bin Buccaneers, or like any, or even like the Harbingers felt like they were harder to get down just because you didn't, maybe I was just drawing poorly, which is also possible, but it felt like that was kind of a secondary game plan as opposed to that's really your primary tempo. I also could have been mulliganing poorly because I didn't know what I was doing. That's also entirely possible.
So I do think that basically Rogue is in a mulligan for Harbinger state.
Yeah.
Like, it's the card because, and you keep it and hope you get your bounce effects because it generates just so much tempo to get that down on 2 and Shadow Step, or God forbid, get that down on 2 and prep the web, right? Web of Deception. Because then you get, even if you get other bad rolls, you got your 4/4 stealth. And if you have both. There have been times where I have not done this myself, but I faced a rogue that just went, it might even have been on coin, even if it wasn't on coin, just going Harbinger, step, replay, prep, Web of Deception. I'm just like, all right, cool, you got me. Like, we're done here. There's no clear that deals with that early in the game, and certainly not in the mirror. So mirrors do often come down to just like, did you Harbinger on 2? No. Did they? Yes. Well, go next.
Yeah. I mean, one thing on Harbinger, if you just have a Web of Deception, against some decks, you can just play the Harbinger on 2 and then Web of Deception in on 3, like if you're on the play without the coin. It often lives. So you do have to think about, it depends on the deck that you're facing, but say you're facing like a Paladin, they don't have something on board, just Harbinger.
Yeah.
I learned that from watching my opponents do it and then being able to do nothing about it, and then they stepped it the next turn. So also, if you have just like Harbinger and Shadow Step in your hand, you can just play the Harbinger again, unless you need to hold him for like combo activation on the next turn or something like that.
Right. Which does come up, but if you've got other stuff, then go ahead and play it.
It's just a 2/3 that they have to kill.
But also, if you play it that turn, you get to attack with it for 2 damage, which is better than not attacking with it for 2 damage most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's got soft taunt. I mean, like, they're not going to leave it up.
Yeah. I love that the sort of next iteration hard runs. Oh god, the Rogue Legendary.
Ashamane? No.
No.
Oh, Talgath? Yeah.
I love Talgath.
Yeah, Tagath is actually good in this deck.
Yeah.
In the Ashamane version. So there's really we're really talking about like 4 decks, which we do have in a deck sheet, and I'll put the Protoss Rogue in there. So there's like Protoss Rogue, right? There's Pirate Rogue, which is the one that like doesn't run Shaladrisil, doesn't run Ashamane, really is like actually focused on the Pirate Rogue. And if you're
Maxi Bonds has Shaladrisil still.
Maxi Bonds doesn't run Ashamane and runs like Marin instead. Does still have Shaladrisil because the card is crazy, and it doesn't even need to be doesn't necessarily need to be corrupted.
Yeah, but the Ashamane Rogue is adding like Perfect Twin Ziliax in addition to the Ashamane to be able to have another thing to corrupt it, because it doesn't have to be corrupted, but it sure would be nice.
Yeah. So 4 decks: the Protoss, which we're not talking about very much, the Pirate one, the Ashamane Pirate one, which is really Ashamane wearing a pirate costume for Halloween, and Ashamane Rogue. So, and in general, at higher ranks, Ashamane Rogue is a little better positioned into the field, but it really depends on what you're seeing. It's not better positioned into Mage, I'll tell you that. But they are running a lot of the same cards. Everybody's running, for the most part, except for the sort of classic pirate build, is running the Harbinger. And everybody's got to deal with, everybody's running Bargain Bin Buccaneer except for Protoss. And you have to think about things like, how am I going to combo this? So like, you don't necessarily want to play Space Rock Collector, which is the Draenei that discounts your next combo card, like on 1, if you're going to need him to get out your Bargain Bin Buccaneer on 3, or maybe on 4 after you, like, let's say you're playing Pirate Rogue, you've played the Cove, and then you have, like, you coin out Cove on 2, great, but now I have nothing to discount my Bargain Bin Buccaneer unless you have something like a Prep something or the Space Rock Collector. Probably your, like, best, your, like, ideal hand there is, like, Prep, Lucky Comet, Space Rock Collector, then into Bargain Bin Buccaneer, but like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could go Twisted Web. I mean, you could go Space Rock Collector on 1 if your plan is like coin location on 2 into like Twisted Web Weaver, Bargain Bin Buccaneer on 3, right? Because it still would be. Is it because Space Rock Collector is not combo that turn, right?
That's true. Yeah. So if you have a different 1-drop or something like that,
yeah, you
can just bank that discount. So there is a lot of thinking ahead about mana, and almost kind of like Shaman with Overload, but in a different way. You're thinking about when your discounts are going to be helpful for the next turn. So you do want to plan out your mana for next turn. Obviously, things will change with your draw, but just having a sense of how that's going to be, thinking about what's going to be my combo activator. I found that, yes, you end up with a too much draw situation once you got the ball rolling. But if you just... I've had too many games where I just ran myself out of stuff and was top decking, because most of our draw kind of relies on other cards, except Dubious Purchase later on. It can draw you cards even if you can't combo it. Like, that is an option for the card. You don't have to combo it to play it. Obviously, that's a true statement, but you can get into like a fixed mindset about it. But like, I found I actually kept my Twisted Web, especially in the pure Ashamane one that isn't running like Toy Boat and Web Weaver and Raiding Party. Here we have Web Weaver, we have Dubious Purchase. You might be able to draw a little bit from like Mixologist. What else? Like, you do want your Web Weaver to actually draw you stuff, I guess is what I want to say in this deck, because you need to get to your Shaladrisil, Ashamane, Ziliax. You also have Xavius. was added for consistency in the latest VS report. So I was playing with that version. So if you're playing the straight Ashamane, you actually don't have tons and tons of draw. You have a lot of sort of generation and go back to my hand. But like you don't want to just waste your Web Weaver.
I do sort of prefer to be on a bit more of the sparser end than to be running the toy boats as some things have, because toy boat is often either like nothing or you're drawing 3 cards because you're doing a lucky bargain bin buccaneer or like a turn with sandbox scoundrel, and it gets to be too much. But yeah, dubious purchases are a lot on their own, and I think the key with Twisted Web Weaver is we're so used to like, oh, keep the draw engine, right? But it is in fact not the draw whenever you play a combo or battle cry minion. What was it? That field contact. It's not field contact.
Why do you have to bring up repressed memories? Like, why do you need to do that to me?
Field contact, you kept it because it just worked with everything.
Yeah.
Twisted Web Weaver, in fact, is a reload for like the second half of the game after you've played a bunch of one-ofs, right? And so you're in the second half of your deck where you've got your second copies of everything. And so you don't need to just think of it in terms of like, oh, I'm bouncing things and replaying them, and that's how I'm activating it. Because that's like only going to get you 1 card in the first half of the game because it's only getting you cards off the things you've bounced. But once you're in the second half of your deck, generally, you're at your additional copies. It does commonly work with Bargain Bin Buccaneer because you're looking to play like 4 of those a game since you're pulling them off Lucky Comet. We'll get into Lucky Comet in a bit later, but so yeah, it's I basically like don't keep the Web Weaver and try not to play it early on unless like you know you need the board presence, because it's like Dubious Purchase is the early card draw, Twisted Web Weaver is the late game card draw.
Yeah, I mean, and really you want to be mulliganing, like looking at the mulligan impact for just Ashamane Rogue as an archetype on HS Guru. Harbinger of the Blighted is like plus 5.1% mulligan impact.
Uh-huh.
Followed by Shadow Step at 3.5.
It's the card. It's the Keleseth, right? You get to run 2 of them, but all the rogue decks right now, I think, unless you're not running it, in which case maybe you should be, it's just Harbinger and Step or Web of Deception is what you're looking for. I have not determined yet whether Step and Web are a keep. If you don't have Harbinger, I lean towards no, because they like you need the Harbinger before they like really matter in the early game.
I mean, that's what we can say. If you need Harbinger for it, and those are not Harbinger, then you need to toss those to get Harbinger, even if you don't have the thing that enables them. Because you have 4 things that enable them and 2 Harbingers, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that is one thing that I definitely was doing wrong starting to play this deck, was I was not mulliganing aggressively enough at all. If you are constantly feeling like, why do my opponents always draw better than me? There's 2 things behind this. Well, there's 3 things. 1, it is possible that the universe does hate you. It's probably not true.
Well, that's a positive, uplifting message. Maybe you're just cursed.
Maybe you know what you did. I don't know.
Have you angered a witch today?
More likely, it's the product of 2 things. 1, confirmation bias. You notice when the opponent draws better than you, more than the reverse. And 2, they might be mulliganing better than you, right? Like you really will draw better when you mulligan better. So it does help. But yeah, Harbinger is definitely the mulligan outlier in anything that is running it. One Lucky Comet. So Lucky Comet is the 2-mana spell that says discover a combo minion. The next one you play triggers its combo twice. That's an interesting card because there's there's not a huge pool of minions to get from it. And so you can kind of plan ahead a little bit and therefore work with your Twisted Web Weaver. You can also plan ahead. So like Lucky Comet in the pirate list with Cove is really great if you can line that up with your Buccaneer and your Cove to get 3 5/5 rushes. It's kind of a build your own shanty at that point.
It's like the way I clear shanties, or even better, pressure on like turn 4. I prefer the location list in part because you've got that for a big play, and it's just I will go into this mode against some slower things where I just only click it, or sorry, only swing with the weapon when I'm making a 5/5 charge. Because if you know that they're going to consistently clear his stuff, you're like, well, I'll at least guarantee I get this charge damage. It's considerable amount of pressure when you're just every other turn getting a 5/5 that you can sort of maneuver to go face.
Yes. And Talgath can actually be a good pick off of that, either defensively or offensively if you want to maneuver your 5/5 off of the weapon to go face. Because, and also if you have to clear off a board, so Talgath, he gives you a backstab that does 4. He also empowers any of your minions or your weapon to clear stuff much more effectively. And then they still have to get rid of him. So it can actually be pretty powerful. Do keep in mind that it is only undamaged enemy minions that take double damage. One of my first games with this deck, actually an early game right before I started playing the deck, I was like pretty high rank. I mean, in an objective sense, all of these are high ranks, but I was like 500, and somebody played Talgath and then tried to clear my 8/8 by doing a backstab on it and then running in their face with a weapon that had 3 attack, and then it didn't die. And they emoted oops. Which, yep. I did not emote back at them because I didn't want to
They know what they did at that point. You didn't need to rub it in. Yeah.
They already know. I had faced somebody like the game before where I did something equivalently, didn't think it through. The card explains the card type of thing. And I said oops, and my opponent said thank you, not once, but twice. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
I a bunch of times have like clicked the location, played the mini discount thing, and been like, I didn't want that to be a 5/5. I really wanted either the 5/5 charge or the copy of 5/5s. Yeah,
there are lots of little ordering things. You have to play the scoundrel right before the thing you're going to discount. You can think of, so the mini discounts essentially discount something by 2 because it discounts it by 3, but it cost 1 unless it was discounted from some other thing. So if you want to use it to play Ashamane or Ziliax early, you're doing that on 7 unless you have a coin.
But do keep in mind that if you're doing that and you care about corrupting Shaladrisil, it will not.
Actually,
will it?
It will still. It will still, because the Shaladrisil costs 4 while the Ashamane costs 6.
Oh, because it technically discounts everything in your hand, right? Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Until you play something, it discounts everything in your hand. So that's actually a great way to get the Shaladrisil online early. Sometimes I will save the mini disc scoundrel if an earlier Ashamane, or often at that point I need an earlier Ziliax to just not die and heal up, and then I'll have Shaladrisil to get back in the game or win the game after that.
Yeah. Another order thing to be careful of is you can go prep and then scoundrel. You cannot scoundrel and then prep.
Yes. So the prep will wait until your next spell. You can play any minions you want in between, but the scoundrel will discount anything. And of course, there is the name of our podcast, Coin Concede. You do not prep and then coin. You coin and then prep.
The oldest rogue mistake, yeah.
The oldest rogue mistake. I've played a little enough rogue that I had like an early thing where I wanted to coin out a harbinger and then prep a web of deception. And I had to very consciously be like, okay, we're doing this in the right order. Coin, harbinger, prep, web of deception. Here we go. Which is a really good start. Oh, by the way, speaking of harbinger, Goku in the Discord made this suggestion, and I think he is right here. Just make sure that you pause after you do your harbinger to make sure you didn't get a Doomsayer or a Lorewalker Cho, and you don't just like continue with your turn.
Yep. Yeah. There definitely been times where it's like, oh, all right, Doomsayer. So how am I going to use that for initiative next turn or charge next turn?
I think there was, I can't remember if it was Schwal or who was saying that they had one of those openings where they had 2 Shadow Steps and Harbinger. So they're going to have like the insane double Shadow Step Harbinger, but the first one gave them Doomsayer. So then they actually stepped the Doomsayer.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that, like, yeah.
And then actually that it turned out to be useful later to clear a board. So
yeah. Oof.
But you have to stop and think about it before you play your second Shadow Step on the Harbinger.
Yeah,
so.
Like I guess another option would be to just sort of, if it's on the first one anyway, sacrifice that and just say like, well, you know, this means that I can definitely take initiative next turn, and next turn I replay the 0 cost Harbinger and step it again.
Depends on what you're playing against, right? Like if you're playing against another tempo deck, then that's probably fine. If you're playing against like a Death Knight, that's probably not the play, because like they're thrilled that you're taking a turn off, and that means they can just draw or just like twiddle their thumbs or whatever that they're going to do and not have to worry about having to clear your stuff.
That's one where you do need to put on some more pressure. So what you're doing to win with what you're doing to win with the Pirate Rogue is like the straight Pirate Rogue. You were doing Pirate Rogue stuff. You were making 5/5s. You were hitting them with 5/5s, and then you have Shaladrisil if you need it, and Marin if you need it. If you're playing Ashamane Pirate Rogue, you're kind of got a hybrid of stuff. You're trying to do the pirate thing, but you're a little bit less likely to win just through the pirate thing because you have these other cards in your deck, but then those other cards in your deck give you an alternate game plan.
I feel like the specific thing for me that I notice is not having the Wind Fury Pirate. And it is tempting to, maybe I should just try adding that because there's a couple of flex slots, could be worth it even without sort of some of the other things that make that particularly good. A 5/5 Wind Fury is solid a lot of the time.
It is, like an extra 5 damage. And if you're playing the straight Ashamane Rogue, this was, I think, the other thing that took me a while to get used to, like, how am I winning with this thing? And it does kind of depend on what you're facing. So if you have the great Harbinger start and you can just kind of smork him down, great. Other times that's just kind of keeping the early board from spiraling too far out of control. And then you're winning with Shaladrisil, and or you just play their own deck at them better than they played it at you.
Oh, Rogue. Okay.
If they play Kill Jaden, Edel had a good point here. You can wait until after they kill Jaden and then get a bunch of cheap giant demons, because they will be buffed.
Honestly, I think that is sort of the way for me to kill warlocks assuming that they have the stuff in time, right? Because plan A is like, we'll try and pressure and hope they don't have Ancient of Lore, and maybe you just get them. But in particular, the Starship ones are a little more resilient, right? And I've mostly been seeing the Starship ones. They are quite sturdy, and if they are able to land the cursed whatever on a big starship, that can be lights out if you don't like shuffle it into their deck or otherwise have a way of dealing with it where they don't get any armor or get the copies rather. So I often found myself stepping Ziliax, both to sort of keep me in it and have more clears than the deck often has, don't get me wrong, you still spend 1 or 2 on Harbinger if you can, but Ziliax is not good for them to Eternal Layover. And it's the only thing you have that's bad for them to Eternal Layover, because they come back with Divine Shields. So even if they can ping those off, they either have to spend multiple things to clear, or just accept that they're going to be leaving 6/1s, and then you can bounce and like be able to have more of that. And then Ashamane post kill Jaden. Usually if you get to do that, I think you win, especially if it's been a couple of turns, because the demons are huge and you're getting like a full hand of them, and so the odds that you just get to play a bunch of free big demons for like a huge board swing after you've already run them out of clears, because you can do that with the location and Bargain Bin Buccaneers. It just makes sure Ceaseless has been played.
Yeah.
Then you just, they can't deal with it, and if they do, you then have the more expensive things to play in the next turn, and sometimes those are things like Illidari Inquisitor, which we're a weapon class, we can use that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just pay attention to what the demons are, please, because some of them will hit you in the face. And
that is true.
You do want to just like look at them first before you play them, because especially when you're doing a turn like that where you don't have a lot of time and you're going to be tempted to just spam cards out of your hand, just like take 5 seconds and look at them and make sure none of them are going to hit you in the face, or for enough that it's going to matter.
Yeah. That also makes me think about, so with the Harbinger is your best hit for bounce effects in the early and like early mid game. But if it's getting late, it still can build you a board, but some decks don't really care about 2-drops late game. Like a lot of decks don't really care at that point. So you do, at that point, you might be better off saving your steps for Ziliax, for Ashamane, for even like Bargain Bin Buccaneer, right, is also a good step candidate, especially if you're running the Cove version. Sometimes even if you're not. Talgath in a pinch, like the later it is, the more you're thinking about, is there something else I want to step out? Also, if you whiffed on your Harbinger and you've got nothing better to do than a Web of Deception, like to get a 4/4 stealth and maybe play something else again, like you can do that. Sometimes you whiff. So the Ashamane Rogue does teach you how to play every other deck.
It's like playing Thoughtsteel Priest back in the day, right? Like you're just gonna learn what everybody else is doing.
So the more you know about other decks' interactions, the less you fall into the traps of the other decks' interactions. I also found that I tried to, unless I had kind of a specific sense, because if you're getting most of a hand of cards from Ashamane, you kind of know the type of thing you're likely to get from each different opponent. And sometimes I would try to play Shaladrisil first if I had already corrupted it from Ziliax, because the Ashamane was going to clog up my hand for a while. Particularly with like Death Knight, because I had a game earlier today where I did Ashamane first, I think because I needed to corrupt the Shaladrisil. And then I had like a handful of corpse explosions that I just like couldn't get out of my hand.
That's hilarious.
I did eventually win the game. They did actually eventually come in handy. But I was the one with big stuff on the board. I didn't want to like corpse explosion it away. So I had to wait a really long time before I had enough slots to play Shaladrisil. You can play Shaladrisil anyway and just take the risk. But versus Death Knight, I was like, I don't want to not hit the important stuff here. So
yeah. But they're 2-mana corpse explosions. So like they're pretty easy to squeeze in and then build pressure behind. If, particularly when people do their ceaseless turn, that they're hoping for a big swing there.
That is exactly what it turned out to be useful for. And because you're not a Death Knight, you have not been paying corpses for things this whole time. So even though you're a rogue, you have a decent number of corpses. So I just cleared it.
That's fine for like the first corpse explosion. Like the third and the fourth might not be so good.
Then you're just paying 2 mana for a hand space slot.
Yeah.
I also I got like 3 corpse explosions, 2 of the leech card that draws 2, which is great, except I had no hand space. Something else that drew like a Chill Fallen Baron or something.
Yeah, I guess you do want to be cognizant of like how many cards the opponent has left, because if they only have 3 cards, you're gonna get a lot of duplicates. But if they have like 10 or something, you can get more diverse stuff.
And if you're using Deck Tracker, you can kind of guess at what those 3 cards are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just that they only have 3 cards, but you can say like, what haven't I seen yet? Or what haven't I seen 2 of yet at that point? I mean, minus however much they have in their hand. Like, obviously, you're not going to know what's in hand versus deck, but you can kind of get a guess of like, these are the things I can expect to get.
Yeah. Lanessa is hilarious.
Yeah, that.
We don't actually have as many good ways to take advantage of it as the Paladin does, but it costs less for us.
Well, you also have prep, right? So.
And you have the other spells from the Paladin that all cost 0 now. So that's mostly what I found I was using, because we don't have a lot of spells that are better doubled, because we're not running Eviscerate anymore and stuff like that.
If you prep with Lanessa, does it discount your next spell by 4?
It sure does.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's gross.
That's good with Dubious Purchase, yeah. Unless you have no hand space. But if you played everything else that was 0 cost in your hand, and then you do a 0 cost Dubious Purchase,
yeah,
you draw 6 cards.
And kill 2 things. Yeah. Seems good.
Seems good. Against a Pally, yeah. It's not a good matchup for us in general, but that is a hilarious thing that can happen if you have managed to live that long.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't seem likely with them being able to like tutor highest cost things, but I suppose if you did the, turn 6 Ashamane and somehow got their Shaladrisil and Lanessa, and you have a prep, you could like prep, or with Lanessa out, prep, it would do double, and because it was their Shaladrisil, so it's already discounted by 3, it would then be free, and it would double Shaladrisil. But again, hand space, so you probably wouldn't even get all this stuff.
You probably wouldn't even get. I think I did use it once, or I used it or I had an opponent use it with their own Shaladrisil. So then they got a double of the deal 5 to all enemies. But as a paladin, you try to kill them before they're doing shenanigans like that, and that's often effective. Paladin is not our favorite matchup.
I will say the direction that Paladin has gone, I think in response to the rogues, can be very brutal. And so watch out for the aura that taxes spells.
Oh yeah, aura of resistance, yeah.
Because it's one thing for them to do it in the early game to slow you down. The scarier thing is they wait, do it as part of Lanessa pop-off, so all your stuff costs 2 more. And they have also buffed Lanessa to be huge. Basically, it's just like they set up I have a bunch of things that you now can't kill because you everything costs 2 more. And so then they get to stick Lanessa and kill you the next turn. It's tough.
I did one time as a paladin. I can't remember why. I must have had a bunch of coins, but not much else in my hand. I played Lanessa, coin, resistance aura. And that was my hand, but they left. Because it was cost 4 more for all of their spells.
And it's really a race to the bottom because there's a rank 1 Ashamane Rogue list running Customs Enforcer.
Oh my god.
Because it's good in the mirror too, right? It affects coins from Metal Detector, and a lot of people aren't doing the pirate one that I'm doing. They're running Metal Detectors in Ashamane Rogue. And also, Creature of Madness stuff, Lucky Comet stuff, Talgath, backstabs, the Ashamane things, all the Shaladrisil spells, and of course in Paladin you're getting Divine Brew, everything past the first one, and all the sunscreens are getting an extra 2 cost.
It's also good against Druid, because Druid's just generating a bunch of garbage also.
So, yeah, that rank 1 Ashamane Rogue list with Customs Enforcer is a little spooky. It's also running Zephyrus, which I am critical of, but I did die to it once because they had 2 minions in play. And I maybe could have cleared one, but decided for more face damage. And they managed with like bouncing the 1-cost scoundrel thing to play Bloodlust and Savage Roar in the same turn.
That'll do it. Yeah.
So, oops.
And that is also, that is them thinking well about their discounts, planning ahead to the next turn. You definitely want to plan ahead for that. And then if you're going to play Ashamane, you play that right at the beginning. You know that the turn before, I'm playing Ashamane.
Mm-hmm.
And you play it because you're going to need a second to parse all the cards you just got in your hand. And you need to play at least one of them to clear a hand space. And probably you're playing several. Although you don't necessarily, you don't have to play them all right away. I did end up enjoying myself eventually. It was a learning curve because I'm not used to playing Rogue. But I think I had kind of decided I'm going to learn Ashamane Rogue. I think if I play just the straight pirate, it'll probably be a little bit more in my comfort zone. But I'm glad that I played the Ashamane because I have a better sense of how it works. And if you see something a lot, you think you kind of know how it plays. It's different if you have the collection to play it. It's good to actually play it and just get a sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of funny things that can happen. I got a Lorewalker Cho once off a Harbinger, but I somehow didn't have any spells in my hand, and my opponent couldn't clear.
Oh, wow.
They finally killed it off for me. This went on for several turns. I just didn't play spells, and for some reason, this actually kind of worked out. Or maybe I played like a coin or something from a metal detector, because I was like, fine, have a coin. It's okay. They finally like traded it off. They probably should have just played their clear, and then I got a clear and then moved on with their life.
I just imagine you playing that coin and saying, here's a tip, stay in school.
I'm a teacher, so it works. Yeah. Stay in school.
Well, I think that's going to do it for our Rogue coverage. Again, I'm sure we have more expert Rogue players in the Discord somewhere, but if you are curious about the archetype, I think this can get you started. Anyway, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at concede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. And write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at coinconcede. And if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Coin Concedes.
I will coin concede. I just finished a book by called Hymn to Dionysus, or The Hymn of Dionysus, by the author Natasha Pulley. I've read a bunch of her works. She's best known for The Watchmaker of Filigree Street. She does a bunch of like historical and or fantasy and or sci-fi situation with an interesting world, usually based on research to some extent, and then like a queer romance with a main character and then a sort of supernatural, maybe morally gray love interest. And all the books kind of have that setup, but then they're all very different in everything else. And this one is a very strange book, but it had a twist that I felt that all the groundwork was there and I actually didn't see it coming, which is always fun. And it was a main character who's a knight in Thebes in like the era of Troy, and Dionysus. They actually don't really know about or have a sense of the god Dionysus, who is the Greek god of like wine and madness and dancing. And in this book, he's actually kind of a menacing force in some ways, as well as sympathetic in other ways. It's interesting the morality that they have there. And everything kind of goes to chaos in the city when he shows up, because that's like what he does. That's what he is. So I don't even know how to describe this book without just like giving the entire thing. But it was entertaining. I've enjoyed a lot of her books. And now I have to find something else to read.
Wiki?
Well, I'm just going to concede to Obi-Wan Kenobi for getting me to get some value out of my signature Tyrande. Because I was afraid. I was legitimately afraid I'd spent $35 on some pixels that I was never going to get to use in a game. So
I don't know if they will be control decks. necessarily, but I find it hard to believe that it will go like irrelevant in 2 years, right? Because casting a spell twice is a very powerful effect. Doing that 3 times, so I gotta imagine that there's gonna be some kind of combo.
From your mouth to God's ears, but it's
We'll see.
But I mean, this was about as close as I've gotten to playing Cloying Gallery Priest again, which is high praise for me.
Wow.
For most people, it would not be, because I don't think many people aside from me have fond memories of that deck. But that was one of my favorites. So this is actually as close as I felt like I got to do. I mean, I got to play Prophet Velen unironically, which was half of that deck. So
that deck you sometimes just played Cloning Gallery and won the game, though. That's
not
different...
that often, but I did. I mean, I did burn down warriors with 100+ armor with that deck back in the day. So,
oh god,
yeah, okay. that was math.deck back then. So,
I suppose inspired by Megasa's pick, I will also concede to an author, Scott Hershowitz, for his book Nasty, Brutish, and Short: Adventures in Philosophy with My Kids. It is, the children are sort of the Trojan horse into talking about philosophy. I promise it's very, very interesting, hilarious book, read by the author if you do the audiobook. And just lots of really great discourse. Like he often sort of goes into a side that he doesn't agree with before discussing why he doesn't agree with it and then what his particular stance is. But in the intro, he tells you, like, please disagree with me, but if you do, like, have a reason and a well thought out one. And just lots and lots of really great sort of insights into prescient topics, right? He talks about usually he gets into an area of philosophy and then gets into how that relates to something like, abortion or reparations or trans women in sports, right? These various kind of like more modern topics, but with these philosophical arguments sort of for and against, and referencing a lot of other philosophers. I never would have thought I'd be into like a philosophy book because it just sounds like such a dusty field, but it's really interesting. And on many things, I agree with Kant, I guess.
Okay, I can't argue with that. So
there is a actually excellent philosophy comic site called Existential Comics, and on the site there is a days since Kant joke counter.
Oh, no.
But if you take, anyone who's ever taken like intro philosophy or read like any philosophy book, she'll explain any details you don't know at the bottom, and they're very entertaining. I once wrote, I did take philosophy in college. I took an 18th century philosophy class. I talked my way into it without the prereq, which was a mistake, for the record, because we were expected to already know everything about like Kant and stuff like that. We're like, we're starting with Hegel. He's responding to Kant. You already know what Kant said, right? And I'm like, I'd better go read up on this. So I did.
As long as you have exactly 0 follow-up questions, then yes.
So I don't recommend trying to read Hegel. And Kant's not the greatest writer either, but reading about him worked fine. And I ended up writing a paper about how I thought Kant was more right than Hegel on a number of things, even though the professor was a Hegel scholar. So,
and there's at least one thing I don't agree with him on, although this author cites it as a thing that Kant probably also didn't agree with on, and it was maybe a devil's advocate kind of argument. But I think the main thing is this theory that like you should treat people as people, not as tools or objects. And That sounds like a simple, straightforward, like, of course thing. But when you get into sort of details and situations, we don't always do that. Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to about do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and keep prep or don't. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.